Santosh Lunani for accepting our invitation, and also congratulate Hindu College management whenever, suppose infrastructure point of view, another point of view, technical point of view, any help that we are asking the Hindu College management, academic management, both people very enthusiastically come forward and accept to organize this type of the lectures. Future also, this trend will continue. Come to the topic, managing, how to managing the people at the international level. You know very well, factors of production, factors of production, land, labor, capital. These are the important factors of production in which the human resources and the people are to play a very vital role. Remaining factors are non-living creatures, but people are living creatures. They have brains. Managing the brains is a very, very difficult, and so many other factors are why it is difficult. Government pattern is vary from country to the country, nation to the nation is different, and simultaneously there are people, cultures, a way of wealth creation, human development index, spending, and knowledge, value-based life, way of governance, human rights conservation, consumer rights vary from nation to the nation. At the juncture, managing the people at the international level point of view, it's require high skills. Today, so many transnational companies succeed because of their the top talented global CEOs. How Nadendra Sachan now, as a CEO of that company, managing the international level firms and establishing good rapport and relationship with the users and the people. How Sundar Pichai, similarly, with the help of the Google, how he managing global level. How Amazon CEOs managing their digital platform and simultaneously with the help of the digital technology, people across the globe. So where skill is very important, innovation, creativity thinking is very important, and using technology, adopting technology, installing technology, adopting technology, practicing technology, developing their own networks, establish a good relationship over the networks for the sake of the communication, reciprocal way. So with the help of that only we were possible to manage. Reason, world divide into the world people and people across the globe divided as a classified as two categories. One is netizens, another one is citizens. First category, people has a knowledge, established and acquired knowledge, adopt knowledge is the ongoing activities. Remaining people maintain distance with the technology. So the global CEOs, global business executives, managing the both people, how to manage both the technocrats and as well as citizens. Similar way. So it is a very, very hot topic in the area of the business management and the professional management, commercial management. With this, I wish definitely this lecture definitely very useful to the faculty as well as the student community. And we are indebted to the Santosh Lunamini for accepting our invitation. With this, I wish you good luck in all the spheres. With this, thank you, Anna.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable message. The program is going to start in a short while. Before that, I am pleased to introduce the guest speaker of today's webinar, one of the eminent personalities in the name of woman entrepreneur, Dr. Santosh Lunani. She started her academic career by taking MBA degree from ICFA University in the year 2002 and had her doctorate degree in human resource management specialization area in the year January 2021 from Andhra University. She had a successful track record of 10 years experience as executive director in jute industry. As an executive director, she visited many countries to improve the business and provided exceptional services in counseling, case management, education, and job training to diverse clients. Worked closely with organizational leadership, including the board of directors, to strategically affect direction of operations. Apart from this, Dr. Santosh Lunani is having passion to interact with young minds, especially students who are pursuing Master of Business Administration. Her interested areas are global business, international business leadership, and cross-cultural issues. Madam, it is time that our students, research scholars, and the senior professors are waiting to receive your lecture. Welcome to Dr. Santosh Lunani once again. Over to Dr. Santosh Lunani. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. So I'm very much happy to be a part of this online seminar, sir. And I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Shivram, sir, the head Commerce and Business Administration, Acharya Nagarjuna University, and Dr. S.V. Ramana, sir, the principal, Hindu College of Management, Guntur, for providing me such a wonderful platform to share my views. Thank you so much. Now, before I start this seminar, there are a lot of young minds over here who are pursuing MBA. I would just like to ask them this question. How many of you would like to work abroad? If you would, just raise your hands in the chat box. We can see the students who are interested to work abroad. So I'm sure many of you would like to work abroad after this pandemic is over, right? So many hands are actually raising up. Yeah. So according to the report, if you see, India is one of the leading contributor of international migrants, with around 17.5 million Indians who have been settled in different parts of the world by now. And can you guess what are the top 5 countries where Indians would like to go and work? So I'll let you know. So the first one which stands in the rank is United States, with 4.12 million Indians working there already. Then we have Saudi Arabia, where we have 4.1 million Indians working. Then comes UAE with 3.5 million. Then United Kingdom with 1.5 million. And then Canada is something which is really welcoming Indians with 1.3 million Indians already working there. So there is a lot that we Indians have, why these Indian tech workers are being hired by foreign countries. There are a number of reasons. I can quote some why there is a possibility why Indians are preferred overseas. So when we look at India's education system, This is something that is providing us with high level of skill. So I can really say that India has a robust, a very strong education system. And I am sure all the students would agree to this. The second point that comes to my mind is some of these Indian universities that we are studying from are actually ranked among the top global universities. So we are so fortunate to see these Indian universities being ranked among the global universities. And then Indians are very much reliable as a source for talent for IT. All of us, we know about this. We are so good with IT, software development, and the jobs that need more of technical skills, we are really good at it. So these are few of the reasons I believe that Indians are preferred abroad. And in this context, as Shivaram sir said, international human resource management is something that we really need to understand. So today's session that we begin with is all about understanding the concept of international human resource management. Now, I'm sure there are many students, I believe, who are from the branch of international business as well. So for them, it is little clear as what is international human resource management, but others who have just joined and do not have much knowledge about it, I would just like to throw some light about international human resource management, which is one of the specialization papers in MBA also. So IHRM, as we say, is a term used by the organizations that manage human resources activities at the international level. And this IHRM basically includes all the typical functions of HR, such as recruitment, selection, performance management, training and development, remuneration, all these things that are analyzed and managed at the international level. So basically, when we see about IHRM, it is nothing but understanding the management of HR activities at a global level, right? So this global level is where we are trying to go international with this advent of globalization. The going international and global has become a fashion now, and it is much of a trend, I believe. So we see whenever we ask MBA graduates as what they would like to do, they say that I would like a placement in an MNC. Many of students say that. So whenever I ask them, whenever I interview them, they say, ma'am, I would like to be placed in a multinational company. So that is a big dream, actually. So when we talk about this multinational company, what is it? If we ask what is a multinational company, it is something which is common as a single nation firm also, but at the same time, we see that they are unique in their operations. Why? Because they have wide distribution networks. They have the suppliers and they have the customers which are spread all across the globe. So in order to manage this internationally or globally, we need to enter into other countries. We need to adjust with their operations, how they work, We need to comply with the rules and regulations, as Sir had said, about the host country. We have to be aware about what are the legal requirements. We just cannot go to any other country and just work. So there are a lot of formalities that has to be done on the legal grounds. So we need to modify ourselves according to the culture. We need to deal with the religious aspects of those countries and other cultural preferences that we may say that is there in the multinational companies. So today's this whole topic would tell you about what are the challenges that we face and how can we overcome these challenges when we would like to employ ourselves in the different parts of the world. So this multicultural nature of this MNCs workforce makes the human resource management strategies and the policies and the practices perhaps more delicate. And this is what has complicated our managerial task, I believe. So let us first understand what are the motives of behind internationalization or going global. I have actually prepared a PowerPoint presentation. I hope you are able to see the screen. Sir, is it visible?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so when I talk about the motives behind internationalization, the basic primary motive of any organization is obviously to make profit and to grow in size, you know, in the market share and the power that we are talking about. So many of the companies, they engage in the international business when they have less possibility, when they see less possibility at their home country, and when they have more greater opportunities available abroad. So as per the studies, we can see that the market saturation or any kind of fierce competition from the domestic and foreign companies, high cost of productions as in wages, the raw materials, the capital, the land, the factors of production, as we say, any kind of shortages on the managerial or technical skills, they try to invest in the foreign markets, which are more, attractive maybe. So these are called the push factors, where you are being pushed to go and start a business abroad. Similarly, there are something called the pull factors also, where, there are various opportunities and advantages that are available abroad. So they may tempt you, they may entice the companies to actually start their operations. So they can be because of low production cost, or you can have the closeness to the raw materials, and more so in case of India settling abroad. Many companies starting abroad is because of advanced technology, skilled human resources, more established customer there. And one more important thing is the tax incentives in the different countries, the host countries. So these are the reasons why the companies, they want to go global. Now, the management, when we appoint staff in these multinational company, they see they are based on 4 types, which is known as EPGR, that is the ethnocentric, polycentric, geocentric, and region-centric. So these mindsets basically determine whether, like from where the host country, the national country, or the parent country, or a third party country national is appointed to a particular post. So they are basically deciding as how, you are going to appoint staff, and why is it so. So coming to this ethnocentric staffing policy, as we say, it refers to a strategy of a multinational company to employ people or managers only for the key positions from the parent headquarters, instead of employing local staff. So here, more of the decisions are based by the taken by the headquarters that we talk about, and very limited autonomy or power is given here. But coming to your polycentric, here each the host country national, they manage the subsidiary companies who are seldom promoted to the headquarters position. So here they are transferred to subsidiary positions, and they manage these subsidiaries, holding only the best positions that are available in the multi-domestic business that we talk about. Coming to your geocentric appointments, it is a global approach. It's a worldwide integration where each organization tries to make a unique contribution. So this is best suited for the global businesses, where they do not, favor any kind of nationality. So the color of the passport here does not matter. Anyone who is willing to work are the people who are absorbed by these companies. So these are the actual global companies that we talk about. And the last one that we talk is the regiocentric, where it reflects the regional strategy and the structure of the organization. Sir, can you see my screen? I think I've lost it somewhere. Is it visible, sir?
Yeah, madam, it is visible, madam.
Okay, sir. So the next point that I would like to talk about is managing the people at the global level. So how does globalization affect the way the workforce is managed? So here, when we managing people, basically we want to attract, we want to motivate and retain the best talent. And this is all over, whether it is in India or whether it is abroad, we want to motivate and we want to retain the best talent. And this kind of a task is very challenging. So these multicultural teams at the international level in the companies, they provide greater value to organizations where, they can acquire more talents. So the effective people management skills are introduced here, where they can actually motivate people to come together and form efficient teams of employees. So when we talk about, say, multinational chains, I remember this multinational restaurant chains of McDonald's. I'm sure the young students would be in love with the fast food, and they must have heard of McDonald's, which is a king in the fast food food. So when they talk about McDonald's, this McDonald's takes an active role in the selection as well as training of the staff in the foreign countries as well as in their domestic outlets. So if you want to take up a job in McDonald's, they will be giving you some kind of training before you get into the job. And that will be as per all the McDonald's outlets everywhere, all over the world. So when we see, as per the status, almost 80% of the mid-size or the large companies, they only send their professionals abroad. But around 45% are still planning to increase the number of their international assignments. You know why? Because 10 to 20% of all the Indian managers who are going or who are sent abroad, they return early because of job dissatisfaction or any kind of difficulties in adjusting in the foreign country. And the one who actually stay back for the duration, they may not have met up with the expectations of the superiors. And 1/4 of them only completed the assignment and left the country. So you see, even though the Indians are having so much of technical knowledge, they have all the competence, but they are not able to survive in a foreign land for more number of years. They are not able to finish the job and come back. So there are a lot of reasons as why this is happening, which we are going to talk about in the course of time. So when I talk about this, you see the turnover rate here is higher when the managers go abroad here. So when you compare to people or the employees who do not go abroad and the people or the employees who are going abroad, you see that the turnover rate has doubled here, because they are not able to acclimatize or adapt to the situations in the foreign country. And it is also said that the few HR managers, only 11%, according to the research, have ever worked abroad themselves. So you see, they have very little understanding of what is a global assignment or what kind of personal and professional challenges have to be met by them. So it is the time now that we take up more of international assignments and try to prove our mettle in the foreign countries also. So while making this international recruitment, what is the focus that we are looking at? We are looking at the knowledge creation, and for this very important thing, which I feel is global leadership development. This is the need of the hour, the global leadership development. So when many companies are sending people abroad to, kind of reward them or to give them an assignment which is supposed to be done right away, they are trying to send them based on their technical skills. But whether it is being matched, whether it is exceeding the cross-cultural abilities, that is what we need to see. So the companies that manage these expats, who are expats, I have mentioned in my PPT. So expats or expatriates, as we tell them, is a person who's residing in the country other than their own native country. So here we refer to the professionals or skilled workers, who are actually working outside their home country, and they are either independently residing there or they are sent abroad by the employers. So they are the expats. So when we talk about these expats, they assume that these people should have some necessary technical skills, but at the same time, they should also live comfortably in different cultures. That is something that we talk about. So what are the type of jobs, the roles of expatriates that we talk about is, the agent of direct control or agent of socialization, the network builder, boundary spanner, language node, and transfer of competence knowledge. So these are the people who basically interact with the foreign countries on one-to-one basis. And they are the ones who build in relationship with the foreign companies and the host country companies. So when we talk about these expatriates, there are other also, which is known as non-expatriate. So these are people like me, maybe traveling internationally, but we do not relocate to another country. So these are people who are fond of traveling, frequent flyers, the globetrotters, we say, or the road warriors. So they visit the foreign locations, so maybe to visit a trade fair, or, just periodic visits to the foreign operations. When there are certain meetings, they will go and visit abroad. Now, these non-expatriates, they enjoy all the positives. They enjoy the glamorous life. They have the excitement of, dealing with the foreign companies. They do a lot of duty-free shopping. They stay at top hotels. So, they are basically excited with the exotic nature, exotic view, but they are not staying there for a business purpose. They are there only for a short period of time. But when we talk about the expatriates, they are the people who are actually staying there. So as I've already mentioned, the general practices, we should focus on the knowledge creation, the global leadership development, and then assign these overseas posts to people who has more of technical skills that are matched or are exceeded by their cross-cultural abilities. And then when we finish up with a job abroad, we end these expatriate assignments with a deliberate repatriation process that I'm going to tell you as what it is. Now, when we talk, most of these executives that are working here, they face a lot of problem when they have to come back. So repatriation is once you have done with your international assignment, now it is time for you to come back to your home country. And this is the major time where you have a lot of confusion professionally as well as personally. So almost 2/3 of the expats, they face this during the repatriation. So companies, they should recognize and help the people who are returning back. They should be provided with career guidance, and they should be helping them to put their international experience to work that many of us, we completely forget. So you have been working abroad for say 10 years now. And when you come back to your host country, when you come back to your home country, they don't even recognize you. Your all experience is a waste. So this is where we really need to manage people. This is where we need to give them guidance. We need to enable other people to utilize the skills that they have learned abroad. So let us see what the next slide has to tell us: managing people globally. So I'm going to highlight each point briefly here. So sending people for the right reasons. So the companies, as I said, they manage their expats. They should be able to manage their expats more efficiently in view of their foreign assignments. And this should be with a long-term view. So managers, they often send people who lack the ability to adjust with the different customs. They are not able to adjust to the business practices abroad. So they send people actually who are culturally illiterate. I would use the word culturally illiterate. I'm not using the word who is not technically, they are quite well versed, but it is only that they are culturally illiterate. So let me give you an example of a Canadian company, which makes telephone making plants in Vietnam. So here, the Canadian company sends a manager how to manufacture phones to Vietnam. So the manager's performance here will be rated on how he is able to work there. But, when he comes back, he should be able to transfer the knowledge to the local professionals also. He should be able to learn and unlearn from them also. So together, what now people are expecting is how you can generate creative and innovative ideas where it is not only useful to you, but it should be useful to the other people also. So you have to send the people for the right reason, and you make sure that you use their technical expertise also, their experiences also. So I was going through this article where it was mentioned by the GE CEO, Jack Welch. He says that I have spent my entire career in USA. But if there is a next head to GE, I would want him somebody who has spent his time in Bombay, who has spent his time in Hong Kong, in any other part of the world. Because when you have a global perspective, then only you will be comfortable with the foreign culture. When you are able to move around the world, you are able to know what are the different culture all over the world. And that is the reason why I love to travel abroad. I want to know about the different culture in different parts of the world. That is very interesting, actually. So this is how, the global leaders are made. It is not staying at one place and expertising in what you have, but going around, moving around, and actually learning from other people. That is what is very, very important. So, when we talk about these companies who are managing the expats successfully, they are the people who are giving them some formal training. And this training is on the sensitivity of culture. So these people, they just eliminate any other flaws in the expats, but they help them to build the cross-cultural skills. That is very, very important. The next one, as how we can manage people, is by a drive to communicate. So it's very impossible if you go to a foreign language to speak their local language. It was very difficult for me when I came to Andhra. I didn't know the language at all. So it was difficult for me to speak the local language, Telugu. So you can well imagine if you go abroad, there are a variety of languages and you are not able to understand anything except for English. So people who are successful in their jobs, they do not give the attempts to learn language and embarrass themselves if they fail. So, you broken English, the broken French, the fractured, any Spanish language, whatever we talk about, it is only when we learn, we should make attempt to learn the local language. That is how you can connect with the people there. Then the broad-based sociability. So when we don't know people, anyways, most of the Indians are introverts. They do not like to mix with people who are strangers or who are new to them. So when we talk about this broad-based sociability, what we are talking, we should not stick to a small group of people only. Here we should expand our social ties to the local residents. Go and meet people. The best thing is going shopping. You go there, what is the better insights that the shopkeeper can give you? They can tell you everything that is available local, what are the likes and preferences of people here, eating local cuisine, eating food, local food is something which will tell you a lot about the culture also. So you are trying to network with people. That is very, very important to gain more insights about their culture. The next one that we talk about is about cultural flexibility. So, many Americans, if you see, they always they have that same cheeseburgers and coffees. They are used to that. But when you add more twist to that culture, when you try to be open to the local market trends, when you are trying to experiment with different customs, how interesting it would be. So when you see foreigners coming to India, they try to stay in places which are small. They try to eat dal, roti, sabzi, the local cuisine of India. They want to culturally, you see so many foreigners, they come to Banaras. They want to know about our religion, about our culture, and they adapt themselves also. So that is called cultural flexibility, when you actually get into the same color. So there is no what you say hesitation. You try to get familiar with the culture. That is the cultural flexibility. Then the cosmopolitan orientation, where you have a cosmopolitan mindset, open mindset, where you are able to understand different cultural norms, what are the meanings, why they are being practiced, so different viewpoints, and at the same time, you live and let live. That is the beauty of knowing about the different culture. So you gather knowledge about it, and at the same time you allow them, you either to take it or to leave it. So that is the cosmopolitan orientation with a broad mindset, with a broad outlook that we want to take up. Then the next important thing is the collaborative negotiation style. So negotiation is very, very important when we deal with people. This negotiation skills is very important skill in management also. So the collaborative negotiation style is where it can be important enough in business, in the home, and more so abroad. So consider, I would like to narrate an example of a vice chairman of Huntsman Corporation, which is a chemical company based in USA. So he had this John Huntsman Jr. He had developed some informal but highly successful methods of actually assessing the cultural aptitude of the employees. So what he used to do, when he had to appoint people for his company, he used to take trips to restaurant, shopping areas, or side streets, to observe the behavior of the people. So what they approach, what he saw is, do these people approach strange and unusual, do they have curiosity to know about others? What are they trying to communicate with the shopkeepers? So he saw all these foreigners. He used to observe how these foreigners are behaving, and then in the social settings he used to watch them, and then he used to call them. He used to negotiate with these foreigners and measure what is their ability, whether they are going to be a good as managers. So he used to select people from these strangers who are moving around in the road, and he was able to assess candidates and give them certain international problems and see how quickly they used to make the decisions. That is how he used to select the people. So that was one of the best way, I think, that could be done. And the last one in my slide is finishing the right way. So finishing the right way, as I already told you, that one third of the expats, they fill the temporary assignments. They are not the permanent assignments. So when they finish up with these assignments that are posted abroad, they come back. And when they are finished with these work, when they are at home, they see that they have nothing for them. So here what happens, the effective companies, they have to realize that they have spent a lot of money on sending these people abroad. And these companies should see that they create some kind of knowledge and they use these global leadership skills. So you see Honda, when they send their people abroad, they develop new car model and they improve their supply relations abroad. And at the same time, when they come back home, when they return home, the company locates suitable job for the person. They capture the lessons that they have learned from the assignments. And that is why, this integrated approach of the Honda, they are doing really well. They are having key strategic objectives that they are able to fulfill because of these expats that they are having. So companies like Honda, GE, Nokia, they have learned to reap full value from the international assignments of their expats. So they have more conviction that they are going to achieve the organizational goals with the experience of these expats. That is how they are doing really well. So I'll just briefly tell some of the expatriates failure in USA or European multinational or Japanese. In USA, inability of spouse to adjust. So that is the reason why they come back, managers' inability to adjust, other family problems, or, personal or emotional immaturity, or inability to cope with larger overseas responsibilities. European multinationals usually see the inability of the spouse, and Japanese firms, they see that their inability to cope with larger overseas responsibilities, difficulties with the new environment, personal or emotional problems, lack of technical competence, and inability of spouse to adjust. So this is something that is always there. The family has to be supportive for you in order to take up. And this I've already told you, there are certain common challenges of global workforce, that is linguistic diversity, cultural differences, high training costs, deficient technological infrastructure, and time zone differences. So linguistic is where we see that in Europe, if you see, there are more than 230 languages spoken. And in Africa, there are 2,000 languages spoken. So, there are variations in dialects, but they are different. So it is one of the major barriers. Language is one of the major barriers. And in order to overcome this, we need to hire employees who can speak both local language and they understand that. So training has to be given for these to overcome this. Training, first, when you take up an international assignment, it is necessary that you are given some language training also. So that will help them to, understand and translate. Then the cultural differences. Having a deep understanding of the cultural norms is very important. That is how you can accommodate these customs, and you can actually understand the motivation and expectations of the employees in an area. If you can understand help them to overcome these cultural differences. Next is high training cost. So before expanding globally, it is highly recommended that you should train the global force before you send them abroad, training them at home. So training them with sensitivity to cultural customs, languages, telling them what are the traveling tips. Many organizations, they make mistakes in allocating. They allocate a small budget for cross-border training, but actually it is very, very expensive. And deficient in the technological infrastructure. So here, not all countries are highly technologically advanced. So employees, they assess to training materials, it is very limited, and so more at a new location. So it is necessary that you dispatch the training teams or to provide them the training with devices that can be communicated well. The training should be done well. And then the time zone differences, all of us know, this also affects the working of an employee. So training should be given to schedule for these times, make training modules available anytime, or where they can assess, they can overcome these time zone challenges. That is something that has to be seen. So there are a few tips as how you can manage this global workforce. You have to have culturally appropriate communication, that what I told you, what is polite in one country may be considered rude in another country. We already know this. So it is very important as how we communicate with our members, no matter wherever they are located. So workplace cultures, they differ from one country to another. So this is something that we need to look after. Then awareness of the non-verbal etiquettes. So different cultures, they have different non-verbal behaviors. And, when we talk about countries like United States or Middle East, if you have, non-verbal etiquette, just, showing a thumbs up is something encouraging in US, but in Middle East, it is absolutely rude. In Japan, if you laugh with your mouth open, it is like something which is not accepted. So you have to be very much careful about what kind of gestures you have to make in order to avoid that rude behavior in the meetings or in the communication progress, right? And then religious diversity. So one tip is very important here, that there is considerable religious diversity throughout the globe. If you see in US also, although the Christianity is a dominant one there, even in US, there are employees from different countries. So religion, when it is Christmas in US, it is commonly expected as a day off in US. You have a long weekend and a long, almost before Christmas, you have a lot of holidays there. But in Japan, New Year is not an important holiday. uh, uh, yeah. And if you have staff in Israel or in Saudi Arabia, then you see that they want breaks for prayer because they're Muslim, they do prayer throughout the day. So here they have to have a holiday for Muslim religions. So you see how it differs from one country to another, and you have to give preferences as per their religious diversity also. Then we talk about the laws and regulations across the world. There may be differences in the break requirements, the pay scales, the benefits, the insurance, the tax payment, So if you have employees who are living and working in different countries, your company will need to ensure that it is following all the different laws and regulations regarding the workforce. That is very, very important. And yes, students, English as a second language support, it is very important. So if you really need to work abroad, these employees should have, English, must speak English very well. So English is a foreign language, and even if you don't know the other language, it can help you. So you can take up some English courses where you can improve your English skills and become more valuable to other employees also when you're working with the global staff. Then we talk about the cultural diversity training. So here, without training your employees, they may not be aware of the cultural differences. So now today's webinar, I'm sure many of the students have understood what kind of differences in culture exist in different parts of the world. So training to these employees is important. So before you are located to a foreign location, on international assignment, you should be made aware of, about the diversity, cultural diversity within the company. So that will be easy for you to understand, and that will reduce the risk, where you are not able to adapt well, you're coming back again. So that kind of risk can be reduced once you have the cultural diversity training. And the last one in this is how you can higher HR analytics. So companies are no longer limiting or hiring only applicants from one particular location. So the entire world of talent is now available. Anyone, whether it is a small town, if you have the talent, you can approach, you can work abroad. So, here you have more potential applicants, and it is very, very essential that you create a HR software which will know what you need to hire, how you need to hire. So that is very important. You pull in all the applicants and try to take or choose what is required, who is required, what kind of skills you are looking for. So this is how you can actually manage the workforce globally. And now the biggest question is here, how you can facilitate the global workforce during pandemic. So this COVID-19 is all over. It has, amplified actually new ways that global work can be accomplished. So now we are more fortunate if we want to take up any global assignment, we can use the global teams, and virtual collaboration and international assignments can take place. And here, to cope up with this virtual collaborations on a large scale basis during this pandemics, the managers must be ready to reward employees for their virtual collaboration skills. So here, the managers now use this opportunity to build in their firm's capability of virtual working for the future. Now, it is not necessary that you have to go abroad, because how long it is going to take, we don't know. But then here is again one challenge for you, as how you are virtually, how you will be working virtually, and whether you will be having those skills which is required. So in the long run, we are talking about virtual collaboration skills that will become more important for the employee's professional identity. That is now very important. So this COVID-19 pandemic has revealed extraordinary opportunities arising from this widespread global uncertainty, we can say. So here, rather than this multinational enterprise employees who are working from home, they're working from the home for the first time. Many of them are experiencing job instability. There is financial insecurity. So, we are all worried about our loved ones' health and safety. So here, this extraordinary vulnerabilities that are rising because of this global uncertainty is something that we need to manage. And by God's grace, very soon we will see that we are out of this pandemic. So apart from, having these technical abilities and the managerial skills, what I believe is we need to have this cross-cultural abilities also. So before I end this session, I will just tell the students as what kind of skills you can actually include. You can grow in your cultural empathy, adaptability. You should learn the language. Okay. Positive attitude is something that is very important. Emotional stability is something that is required now, and also maturity. So I would just like to conclude by saying that one line which I've mentioned, Murray and Murray advocate that while managerial or technical competence is regarded as the primary competence for expatriate success, effectiveness and coping skills are also required. Can you see in the last slide that I have mentioned? I hope you can see the last slide. So effectiveness skills are what? They're the ability to successfully translate the managerial or technical skills in the foreign environment. And the coping skills are enabling the people to become more comfortable, at least try to survive in a foreign environment. That is what I can say. So reliance on these technical skills can be the predictor of success. Okay, and this technical competence does not only assist a person's ability to adapt and cope with the new environment, but also helps us to deal effectively with the foreign co-workers. So two skills that are required is your effectiveness skills and the coping skills, apart from your technical skills that we are talking about. So with this, I put an end to my session, and the forum is open for any kind of questions or any comments. Sir, I hope I have taken not much time.
Yeah,
And
you have taken appropriate time, madam. I must
Oh,
say. Not
thank you,
much,
sir.
not less, not more.
And I hope my presentation has put forward something for the students as how, why the Indians or the expatriates are failing to perform in the international assignments, and what could be the tips as how we can overcome this and, kind of make them into a global workforce.
Exactly. You shared the right reasons.
I'm open for any question.
Yeah, questions will be shared by our faculty members, madam. Our participants will post their questions in the chat box, and we will read it out on behalf of the participant by spelling out their name.
Sure.
Allow the few students also.
Yeah, little later we'll allow, sir.
Allow the few students.
Yeah, sir. Sure, sir. Yeah, thank you.
10
Okay,
questions,
yeah,
10 questions that you can.
okay. Yeah. Over to Shabana, madam.
Kalyani madam. Hello. Shabana madam.
Yeah, maybe there may be some technical problem over there, sir. Madam is asking you to allow her to unmute, sir. Manish, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Instead of that, Manish, you take up that.
Yes, sir.
You take up this particularly this section.
Okay. Manish,
Okay.
you
Sure.
may do it, sir. Yeah.
Manish, you take up.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
go,
ma'am.
go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Madam, with your permission, shall we start Q&A session?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, let's jump into Q&A session. The question is from first MBA student. How to choose the job? Madam, can you give the tips to follow interview skills? How to face an interview?
Okay. So what I would, am I supposed to answer that, sir?
Yeah. Go ahead, go
This is
ahead.
an irrelevant question to the topic.
Yeah, no problem, sir. Let us encourage the students. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, madam.
Okay. So
Yeah.
first of all, what I would like to tell the students is you should have a SWOT analysis of yourself. First, try to see what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And based on your abilities, based on your capabilities, you should try to take up a job. If there's something that is offered to you and you are not meant for that, you will never do justice for that job. There will not be job satisfaction also. So first of all, you try to find out what kind of skills you are looking for. Like, for example, if you're really good with the technical skills, you should opt for jobs which require those technical skills. If you're really good with communication, you look for jobs where you need to actually, talk, interact, that kind of personality. Based on your personalities, you should be able to look for your job. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thank you, madam. The next question is from faculty. The question is, what tips you can give to our students to develop global cultural competency?
So this global cultural competencies, you need to actually, now everything is available on the Google. Now, when you want to see, you take some case studies of different companies, multinational companies, and how the employees are there, what kind of scenario is there, you know, everything about the, if they are interested to say, look after a particular country like United States. So they should see what are the tastes and preferences of the people over there, what are they looking for. That is how they can do. And then if at all time permits and, you know, this pandemic is over, they could take some foreign tours also, can visit some foreign countries and have a first-hand experience there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. The next question is Swadeshi movement has some meaning in present day? Is it not against to movement of HR at global level? This question is from Krishna Balli.
So it is not bad. See, we are talking about make in India. So it is not bad to have something make in India, or you try to do something in India. But since we are talking about international, then it is Swadeshi movement will be only to your country, right? But when we are talking about international, then you have to adjust with the international levels also. When the world is going global, you should have some taste of that as well.
Yes, madam. Yes, thank you so much. And the next question is, please give a little clarity about the gesture and body signs at international level.
Gestures and body language, is it you're talking about?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, ma'am.
see, every country has some different way of, you know, non-verbal communication, as I already told you. So in America, if you see, privacy is something which is very much needed. So you cannot enter the room of your kids in America without even knocking at the door. Similarly, if you are in a meeting, you just cannot barge in the meeting room. And when you compare with this in the Japanese culture, everything is open there. You know, they don't hide anything, or they don't close the doors for the meeting. So how it varies from one culture to another, it is important to study what they like and what they do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your valuable thought, madam. And the next question is,
Adding to that, 1 minute, adding to that, international citizen, some negative things are there. For example, so that what call for success is concerned, there's people what call show the what call the
Thumbs up.
fingering a thumbs up, and whereas some negative signals at Australia, for example, Australia's problem is arising earlier with Indian students. A reason, what called placing the finger on the nose is a negative sign to the what call at Australia. Our people, without knowing, placing the finger. As a result, some problems arising to this. So first you should understand the culture. For example, in America also, wearing what called rose, not a rose color shirt, light rose color shirt. It's conveyed a different meaning. Similar way, in different European countries, in UK also, wearing one type of the color definitely is conveying a negative opinion. So keep it in the mind. We should understand what is the culture of the nation, how to respect them, how to establish good relationship with them through the understanding the own culture. Right. Go ahead.
yeah, thank you so much, sir. The next question is, please give some tips to maintain efficiency of the employees in this pandemic situation, whether it may be a local or international level. Over to you, ma'am.
So tips during this pandemic is we need to understand each other now. Emotional stability is something which is required at the moment. So as an employer, when you are making your employees work, you should give them some flexible working time. and do not pressurize them or give them more targets during this time. Once everything is fine, they will come back to normal. But work from home opportunity should be given to them, and some consideration should be given to the employees, because they are staying at home, managing work as well as home. It becomes quite difficult. So a lot of consideration from the part of the employer is required. And I'm sure many of the companies are doing that at the present moment.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. The next question is from Avinash. He is presently working as team leader. Currently, he is having 8+ years of work experience as US IT recruiter in US staffing, dealing USA clients for their IT requirements. Done by MTech in 2013. Now, he is working as HR manager in abroad. Madam, his question is, can you please suggest the best country for HR managers?
That is, it's one's own perspective, but I feel Canada is where a lot of Indians are moving now, because they are giving a lot of incentives and a lot of job opportunities are being offered to Indians now. What do you say, sir? Shivaram, sir?
This, the best country is the ombudsman countries, Denmark, in Norway, Sweden, Switzerland. These are the best nations for the employment. But I agree with the Santosh Dhorani opinion, with our opinion. The Canada is providing a lucrative opportunity to the young women resource of the Indian. They're receiving very nicely and providing very suitable jobs to the Indians. And there are good incentives and other type of things also they are providing to the Indian skilled people. At presently, job point of view, Canada is good. Ombudsman countries, Denmark, Italy is also very good. How many people are aware? Italy is also very good. And Austria, Denmark. I got it through the some of the other references. So where they're providing so many facilities to the employees. But cost of living is very high.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. The next question from Mubina. Can you please suggest how to maintain efficiency and effectiveness of the employees in organization, and how to motivate the employees?
So this is $1 million question. All the HR managers are trying to do this only. So efficiency and effectiveness is something that everyone is looking for. But how can we do is, participative style of management, where we give equal opportunity for the employer as well as employee to discuss and to tell things. That is one way. And then it is very, very necessary to take their opinions as in what you're doing. As a manager, you should invite your subordinates and allow them to express their view also. So gone are the days where you used to dominate your subordinates. People are not going to take that as well. But then at the same time, you should give them some challenging tasks, not giving them the monotonous, mundane task. Give them some challenging tasks which will help them to bring out their innate talents also. That is how you can bring the effectiveness and efficiency of an employee.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, madam. The next question from Triveni, first MBA student. Madam, how can we improve communication skills at international level?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question? I just lost you.
Yes, sure, ma'am. How to improve communication skills at international level, especially for students?
So for students, as I told you, even if you know those fractured English, you have to try, attempt. Should not feel as if, you don't know how to speak in English. try, and then you will succeed. So that is the one thing that I request all the students, because I know people, the students of Andhra, they are really good with their technical skills. The only thing that they lag is with their communication skills. So if given the opportunity, they can speak at length in Telugu. But when they hear English, they fear, what is it? This is a foreign language. So there's nothing to it. It is just every day, 10 to 15 minutes, you stand in front of the mirror, you take up a newspaper, English newspaper, try to read them, take out some words which are unfamiliar to you and try to find out. And even if you don't speak fluent English, you try to speak only in English, whether it's a butler English, broken English, as we say. Then only you will learn it. Otherwise, it's difficult,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, apart from that, I'm extending the answer. But nowadays, we must accept English is an international language. If you are interested or not, we must accept it is an international language. You should learn modulation, phonetics, the speed in the communication. These are very important. Apart from that, nowadays demand has started. For example, one student is want to settle down in actually got a job in the China Mandarin. You must learn.
Yes.
Simultaneously want to what call settle down and are interested to work in Europe, where French language play a vital role. French, and simultaneously you want to settle down some South America, where same the French and some Spanish and all these languages learning is very, very important. And the Japanese, similarly Korean. So you choose the, so for example, suppose you want to settle down in Dubai, UAE, and all the areas where you know very well Arabic communication is very important. Arabic language learning is very important based on your interest. Right? English is a language like a Telugu. That's all. But which language is the best to survive yourself? Based on that, you try to develop a language. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, madam. The next question is from Kotaya, MBA student. Madam, can you suggest which jobs are best for MBA students, especially?
So it depends upon what kind of specialization you have taken up. So HR is always on the forefront. Any company would like to appoint an HR manager who's really good with, collaborating. That kind of HR skills is much required, who can motivate, who can understand the employee behavior. And if at all you have finance as your specialization, and financial analyst is something that is very much required in every company also.
No, apart from that, traditional specialization is almost all obsolete, my dear students. I am advising to all of you, all the specialization, Madam rightly mentioned, HR point of view. Whatever the modules that is available in the HR area, try to learn it. And similar way, emerging areas, particularly take over the management functions. For example, IoT technology. IoT technology completely take over the what called consumer behavior tracking is concerned, and consumer relationship is concerned, and security consumer production is concerned. So many point of view, IoT has been utilizing by the organizations. And similarly, financial point of view, financial modules and marketing modules and digital marketing, you know, social media market now penetration is very, very high with the help of SEO. A tremendous changes has taken place. So based on actually, once you learn technology, which related to the specialization, either finance, marketing, HR, definitely you may get a job. No doubt about it. The data science is now emerging.
Data analyst.
How many people, but you know, accountants How many people became a pioneers, particularly in the area? This is very important. Data science, IoT, and AI-based what call how we develop ourselves through what call automation. Automation is concerned. But 4.0 industrial norms emerged. In this point of view, we running and organizing organizations with the help of what call technology and automation. These skills are very important. For the skills, but open the Google, different type of the sources are there, Tabla, Google Era, so many are there. Please kindly visit the sites and improve, upgrade yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable information, sir. The next question is from Shravani, ANU
Oh.
student. The question is, what are the HR trends in this pandemic situation? Madam, can I repeat again?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the HR trends in this pandemic situation?
So the first and the foremost is work from home. That is the latest trend I can see, and this is going to continue for a longer time now. That is what we are talking. And as I mentioned in my last slide, virtually, everything is being virtually. So we need to be skilled in this virtual era also. So HR trends in during this COVID time, this is what I can learn. You need to have more of data collection. You need to gather all the information and house it. There is increase in the remote working, that is working from home. And we see there is a lot of layoffs. People are not ready to hire employees right now because of this pandemic situation, not able to pay them salary. So a lot of contingencies over here we can see replacing, full-time employees into a part-time for cost saving purpose. That is something that we are also looking here. That is it, I can see.
Madam, excuse me, madam. I have a doubt.
Yes, sir.
Madam, at present I am studying BSc Geology, madam. What opportunities can I have in?
Yes, I think
abroad,
I saw someone mentioning that what are the opportunities of geology in the chat box I was going through. So geology is something that you are talking about earth, what is the structure, what are the materials. There's a lot of opportunities actually. If you go, there can be archaeologists, you can be archaeologist, or you can take up anything in the space centers. You can find out about planets.
GIS, GPA, Global Position Systems, right? IoT technology, IoT technologies, right? With Delpa. Now, Google is offering wonderful positions, particularly in this area. Global Position System is concerned, GIS is concerned, you may get a good jobs, right? Please upgrade yourself, not theoretically, technically upgrade yourself.
Madam, what opportunities can I get it there, madam?
So
Will Indians get it there, madam?
You need to upgrade yourself and you need to apply for the post available. So only, doing some kind of a project, international, can also help you. So you should update your CV with more work experiences. That is going to add more. So if you're a fresher, you might not get an international job right away. So you need to add on some work experience to your job, to your profile also.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. I hope that you got the answer from Madam and sir. Yeah. And the next question is Nagarjuna University. He's pursuing MBA student. The question is, the trend is going remote, that is work from home. So how much do you think it will be challenging to manage people working from home? Can you please give suggestion how we can reduce stress in this pandemic situation?
So this working from home is actually a challenging task. It is something new. We are getting accustomed with this. This was something which we never thought before. So this pandemic is teaching us many things which we have not done before. And obviously it is little stressful because you are not working in an office environment. This is little challenging, but then it can be fruitful. Why? Because you don't take much load, because there is little relaxation in the jobs also that you are doing. So working from home is something that you have to accept till the pandemic, because many of the multinational companies, I believe, they have expanded this working from home ideas.
Yes, madam. Thank you so much. The next question is from Krishna Priya, MBA student. What are the qualities and skills that the foreign companies are expecting from the employees?
So today's session was all about that, I believe. I had elaborated on that. What are the skills that we are looking for? So we are looking for people who have cultural flexibility, sociability. We are looking for people who have good communication skills, global leadership skills, right? So these are all things that we are looking for if you want to take up a job abroad.
Thank you so much, madam.
Madam?
The next, yeah, somebody is.
International seminar lo unna.
Madam, this is Jasmine from St. Mary's College, ma'am. Which jobs are suitable for MBA, BDA, madam?
MBA?
BDA.
So what is your dream job? First, you tell me, Yasmin.
Sir, madam, my dream is a software engineer, madam. But some panic situation, I joined in MBA, madam.
Okay. So what are you specializing in now?
At present, I specializing big data, madam.
Big data analytics is something which is really upcoming. Data analyst, just now Shivaram sir also said, big data is something which is all over. So if you are doing that, do it well, you will have a lot of job opportunities for sure.
Okay, madam. Which, hello, madam.
Yes, Yasmin.
Can I listen my voice?
Yeah, I can. Tell me.
Which qualifications are expected foreign countries for MBA, BDA, madam?
So you already have masters, no? Further qualification means if you want to take up a specialization. So you can take up some specialization course in data analytics itself, and you can take up a specialization course on data analytics itself.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, madam, for giving this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin.
Shabana, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just a minute. Maybe we have taken time from Dr. Santosh Lunani up to 11:30. Maybe I request you to take up last 1 or 2 questions. Let the candidates don't unmute themselves and announce the questions. For quickness of the activity, we have come up with this practice of faculty reading out the questions. So 1 or 2 important relevant questions of this session, you please take up as the last 2 questions. I request my today's guest speaker, Dr. Santosh Lunani, to address those 2 questions, madam.
Sure,
Last
sure.
2 questions. Yeah, thank you. Over to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question is, in past, USA facing some international issues from the Indian employees, that it leads to polycentric or not, madam?
So USA, there are few problems that is being faced by many employees there. The visa, H1 visa, and then the jobs are only given to the local employees there. So they would like to take up more job. They would like to give more job opportunities to their local employees there first, and then the Indians preferably. So there was a lot of upheaval. There was a lot of confusion in the minds of the Indians, but still, those who are settled there or those who are working there, they are continuing with the job. But we don't know what can be the political scenario. The change in the political scenario will obviously change the type of recruitment and process also abroad.
Yes, madam. Okay, ma'am. Thank you for sharing experience. The next question is, how much this international business study, how much it plays a key role in abroad? At the same time, yeah.
Tell me.
Over to you, ma'am.
So
Yes, that's the
international
question, ma'am.
business itself is something which will help you to understand what are the business activities going around the globe. So international business, if you study, you know the different aspects of the operations, the management, the working of international businesses. So it's really very useful. I think
Yes, madam.
people who have this specialization on this paper as international business, they must have joined this because they would like to work something, do something internationally.
Thank you, madam. The last question is, can we go with our Indian HR trends with other countries for job opportunities?
So Indian HR trends are not bad. As I told you, IHRM is also based on the HR trends that we are talking about. The only difference will be the culture, the way they present things, or the legal aspects. These are the only things that differ, but the same HR activities are going on abroad also, like recruitment, selection, training, development, performance appraisal. All these are there, but the only way is based on the different locations, your what you say, the compensation, the performance appraisals, they keep changing based on the company. But the base is the same, the HR.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. I just want to conclude this Q&A section. That was an excellent Q&A session covering different aspects of management of people at international level. That was really informative to the students and faculty members also. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Santosh Lunani, madam, as well as Sivaram Prasad Sir Garu. Thank you so much. Over to you, Manish sir.
Thank you, madam. Now I request Sri SVS Lakshminarayan Garu, Vice President, Hindu College Committee, to speak on this occasion. Over to Lakshminarayan sir.
Thank you, Manish. It was really an exciting session, which is a rare session, I can say, because in this sort of a webinars, mostly people will be reading from the slides. And I congratulate Dr. Lunani, who has done an extremely good job. Particularly, she has inspired the people and made the people to think, act, and also analyze the thing as if it has come from her own experience that can be seen. I can really congratulate Sivaram Prasad Garu for arranging such a great seminar for the people. And I think it took about half. I am very happy that it took about 25 minutes for me to enter into this, because it is so crowded. That itself shows the success. And not only that, generally the speaker has really made the people to stay to her and really look her. I really look a great future leader who is going to take up a bigger responsibility, and she is going to be one of the most powerful women in the country as far as a CEO of any company which she is doing. Of course, this is maybe a smaller level, but she can also go at the international level. And particularly the interesting people are asking about the post-pandemic situation of the country. That one has to really, the opportunities people should take up. That is an important aspect. You cannot exactly predict what the jobs are supposed to be after this, but you will be seeing that some of the the industries will be collapsing, some will crop up also. You have to look for those things which are going to crop up and make this world is more interesting place. That is an important aspect which I'm always talk about this adoption. First thing is we must come for adoption all the time. Today we are able to take up this sessions. It is an adoption. Otherwise, it will not be interesting, and we will mute it and sit it and read it. But this is a technical adoption which is doing, and many people are asking about the communication. This is the right time to understand, to start reading newspapers. And one more small suggestion that I can give, I have learned it from my own son, that if at all anybody is television, please start looking at the Discovery channels. And in the Discovery channels, not only the Animal Planet and all that, but food tech, And a lot of other programs are very interesting programs, biscuit making, agriculture, then fighting, some science fictions. Two things can develop. One, you can understand the culture of the West, what they like, language, and also the body language and the expression. These things also, so through entertainment, you can learn. This is one of the things that I have been also doing. And I think both the visual part and the technical part of it can be understood better. There are hundreds and hundreds of videos on any nation you want to understand its background, its culture. This is all the important aspects that one has to understand. Even if you stick to television also, see what is important that can turn your career. It may give a new thought, new processes. All these things will be coming to the student's mind. So as really I have attended a most wonderful session. I congratulate the speaker and also the students who are really lucky to have this session. But adopt yourself, think, analyze, and then some of the principles which she has already told about the answer, some of the questions that you are putting. These things has to be implemented in life. So with these few words, I really thank. I'm lucky that I have also participated in this sort of a beautiful conversation and also a beautiful seminar. And especially Sivaram Prasad Garu, who is always a dynamic. I appreciate, I feel little jealous of it because he's always very young in the new thought process, in introducing people, encouraging people, associating people, worried always about that how the future is going to be. This sort of leader has really brought up good leaders also in his tenure. We are happy to associate with him as a management of as a Hindu college management. I also thank Dr. Ramana for giving me this opportunity, and who is also adopting the same principles in making the students, particularly the IMB students. 100 people participating is not a joke in the present situation. I personally thank all the people who are associated with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable message. Now I request our principal, Dr. S.V. Ramana Garu, to give his concluding remarks. Over to principal, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Manish sir. I must say that it's a spellbound session. Dr. Santosh, you made all of us to become Santosh. Santosham ante telusu kada, Telugu vacha radani mimmల్ని first అడిగాను. So you made all of us happy, not only because of your beautiful way of presentation, but you made us knowledgeable also. I just wanted to tell the scorecard today. By something called as 9:50, we had around 260 participants, 950. That means 10 minutes before the session itself, we had about 268 participants, and it went up to 500 by 10:13, and by 10:45 also the same 500 people were there. That shows, that means you were able to achieve the attention of the people and also retain their attention. That I must congratulate you for that, because of something called as relevant information, whatever you have given. Because the first point what you told to our students about the international thing is sending people for the right reason. So we feel that we have conducted this program for a right reason, and you have given the right information for the right people at the right time, which has helped the people to understand more about international scenario. And also because I suggested that some of the students must be encouraged to ask local questions also, because they are only interested, they are anxious about their jobs. I am very glad that you have answered the questions which are not directly relevant to today's session. And I also must appreciate and acknowledge the information, add-on information given by Professor Sivaram Prasad Garu in this moment. Maybe we will knock at your door once again, maybe to go for something called as a second session or something like that at your convenience. We, on behalf of the entire college and also others, I request you to mobilize us. May not be the immediate days, but we'll take your calendar, and then we'll make sure that some information about how to face the interview, that I look at that as one of the most anxious and relevant or significant point for the students. We will try to chip in once again, madam. I'm very glad that within few days we have become quite close to each other, and you have become a part of our college family member, faculty member. So we are very glad for the down-to-earth approach what you have shown, not only in giving information, but also your accessibility to the students is quite commendable. We are very glad that this program has happened. I'm really happy for that. Over to Manish sir for further proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request C.H. Vaishnavi, Assistant Professor in the College of Management, to extend greetings. Over to Vaishnavi, madam.
Good morning, one and all. Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Good morning, one and all. Greetings of the day. I'm sure that we came to know some information what is happening in managing people at international level. Firstly, I'd like to thank today's guest speaker, Dr. Santosh Luani. Thank you very much, madam, for your wonderful words like global leadership development, knowledge creation, cross-culture abilities, technical skills, and expatriates role and repatriation process, which is very useful to students for their project work and development of their professional career at international level. Thank you very much, madam, for your wonderful words to students. Now, I'd like to thank Professor R. Sivaram Prasad Garu for organizing this webinar, for making our students knowledgeable and skillful, and make our students to be proud in professional career at international level. Thank you very much, sir. Now, I like to thank our secretary, sir, for accepting this type of webinars for the improvement of students' skills and knowledge, and continuous support to the students for the development of their career. Now, I like to thank Sri SVS Lakshminarayana Garu for his valuable suggestion. Now, I extend my sincere thanks to our principal, Dr. S.P. Ramana Garu, who is the backbone of success of the program. He is the person who always thinks about the students and their development. Thank you very much, sir, for conducting this type of webinars, for making our students achieve their goals and objectives. I want to say thanks to our HODs of both MBA and MCOM for smooth running of the program. Then I like to thank my peers who always coordinate with the students and cooperate with all the faculty persons for the success of the program. Now I like to congratulate our students for active participation in the program, gaining the knowledge and improving their skills for the development of their career. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Over to Prince Manish, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Matland,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah,
Over to
you may end the session, sir.
Okay,
With
sir.
the,
I'll
once
So,
again, my thanks.
can I just,
Yeah,
can I-
madam.
Yes, ma'am.
on,
Yes.
on my behalf, I would thank Hindu College for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and Shivaram Prasad sir, my mentor, as truly said, he has been a good motivator, and he's been encouraging budding talents, and I am one of them, I can proudly say. So thank you for giving this wonderful platform. And I also would like to thank the participants, especially the students who have shown such keen interest. I'm sure you're going to go places, and one day you may be somewhere abroad finding your dream job, but then do come back to India, because India also needs you. So you gather all the talent, you gather all the information, the experience there, and come and share with the Indians here so that we can develop our nation better. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again for joining with us and extending your sparing your valuable time and all. Thank you, ma'am. Namaste. Thanks to all the participants, delegates, senior professors, and from India and abroad also. Thank you one and all for sparing your valuable time and for extending support and gracing the occasion with your valuable presence. Thank you one and all. Have a good day. Sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, you may end the meeting, sir.
Okay, sir. Madam, we are ending the meeting, madam.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you. Namaste,
Thank
madam.
Namaste, sir.
Thanks.